Victory Tuesday. It says Monday, but it's Tuesday. Good Victory Tuesday to you all out there, and welcome into another episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob, Mr. Casey Kenneman, and Nick Carnes. Down below, we're brought to you as always by our friends over at SeatGeek. Got a home game this week. Phil Dawson being honored at said home game. If you want to attend that home game, go over to SeatGeek and use our promo code Barking Browns. Get $20 off that first purchase. And enjoy the Browns with a little extra change in your pocket. We appreciate all of you tuning in. If you're on Twitter, on Facebook, on Twitch, make sure you go to the youtube.com/@thebarkingbrowns and hit that sub button. We would really appreciate it. Gentlemen, how are we on this Victory Tuesday?
Fantastic. Because of said victory, I feel much better about the vibes. The vibes are better. Not perfect. There's tons of stuff to work on, but it's way better to do that coming off a victory than the feeling we had this time last week.
I may be feeling like I overreacted to week one a touch. That's definitely possible. I'm much happier to learn that in victory than another defeat. So really glad to see the Browns bounce back, man. Victory Monday is so much better than Loser Monday. Let me tell you that.
Loser Monday. I don't know why I found that so funny, but you said it like that, and I was like, oh, no.
I never really thought about it as Loser Monday before, but here we are. So no more of those, please. And so now, suddenly, I'm looking at the schedule ahead and thinking there's an opportunity to stack some wins here. So I would just say I'm good mostly because I was hoping that the Browns would show us heart that they so often displayed last year, and I felt that they did, especially with all the outside noise that happened after that can only happen after the type of loss that they had week one.
The type of loss, and then of course more drama off. I wouldn't say drama, but just more off the field shit from the quarterback, where it's it just feels like it's never ending, and it's like, hey, if he did these things, I get it, you should put it all out there on blast, but it just sucks from a sports standpoint,
right? That
you said it, Nick, like we shouldn't be talking about stuff like this, like that shouldn't even be a possibility, but here we are. But yeah, so you go from that stuff into this week, and I think all eyes will start here. I think we'll start with Deshaun Watson. I think we'll start with the quarterback because that's where we started last week. That's where we will probably always start, especially with just the way his tenure has been. It's been such a roller coaster, not always because of the on-the-field stuff, but the on-field stuff has been a bit of a roller coaster too. Like even just strictly talking about the sport, injuries, the suspension, inconsistent up and down play. Last week I thought I saw a guy that was broken and couldn't play the game anymore. Like I'm not saying like it was like completely nuclear, but I had some like really, really legitimate concerns that I was like, is this just who he is? Like, is he just going to be a guy that makes some plays here and there and for the most part needs a ton of help? I think he made strides this week, and I'll kick it to you guys so that you can talk about it. But I was listening to Corey Sook on Browns Film Breakdown today, and I really like the way he laid it out when he was talking about it. He has used 3 buckets when you're talking about the quarterback play this week compared to last week. Better, a lot better, or he played really well. And he said, I've got him in that first bucket, the he played better bucket. And I said, yeah, I think I do too. Like listening to him and the way he kind of described it and talked about those different categories, I think that's where I was. It's like, I know some people wanted to take victory laps on this game. He threw for 186 yards. Maybe we don't take a victory lap on this game. I also don't think you saying, oh, he only threw for 186 yards, he stunk, and you take victory laps in the negative. I think victory laps of any kind around the quarterback position this week was not necessary because I think he was fine. He should be better than fine. But from an optimistic standpoint, you said, hey, he was not a detriment to his team this week. Last week he was. This week he wasn't. There was some Houston Deshaun on the field on Sunday. Not enough. I'd like to see a lot more of that. But I'm thinking about not the throw to Judy that should have been picked off, because that was I don't love that, but you got it in there, so you can't be mad. Some of the scrambles that he found Jerry Judy, kind of some Houdini plays. The one was on the sideline for like a 5-yard gain or whatever. But if you watch the end zone view of that, it's pure chaos. Like, and he navigated it and they got yardage out of it. So that was awesome. So for me, I thought he was good. Just better, kind of. I think he ended up like 13th in PFF rankings or something like that. I thought that was a little higher than what I would have put him. But then again, I think there was a lot of bad quarterback play this week as well. But he was middle of the road this week. And that's a step in the right direction. And I thought the offense as a whole, the whole operation looked cleaner. Still a lot of things to clean up, but I thought as a whole, he and that offense took some really nice steps forward.
So we have to live in the world of what is, not what could have been. You bring up the 186. That should have been about 230. There was about 50 yards of passes that were dropped. Now, you're not going to catch all of them, but some of them were gimmies. So, that to me, I saw the same quarterback I saw last year bounce back from that awful Pittsburgh game when they played Tennessee. Mm-hmm. That's what I saw. He was taking what was there early. He got in a decent bit of a rhythm. The one thing that I'm the most encouraged by is last week we saw by middle of the second quarter, that rush was so much on his mind that when they would come, he would just zero down, look for an escape lane, and wasn't looking up to make plays. This time his eyes were up. He was looking to make plays. He takes chances with the ball, but that's kind of the player that he is. And that's that risk reward when he breaks the pocket and he's looking to strike, So I saw a decent rapport with Jerry Judy. I like that. But as the offense as a whole, though, I think you're aided because you saw the motion that we needed to see. You saw the spacing concepts in the passing game that were giving him clear answers. And for the most part, you got to like his complementary receivers. The line held up well enough in the beginning. Now, the second half, that kind of changed, and the pass rush kind of changed the elements of the game, and he was more flustered, but it was more of a product of everything around him. So he still, to a degree, is that guy for me that needs kind of everything to be right for him to succeed at a high level. But there was definitely growth this week. But we've seen this in the past. The only difference in the past is he would have that growth game and then immediately be hurt. And then we'd pause the whole process and reconvene in 4 weeks. And so luckily we don't get any bad news at practice tomorrow, and he's 100% healthy and good to go. And he can build on this because that's what we haven't seen is him stack 6-8 games straight and then be able to evaluate what he is. We keep getting this stop-start stuff. So that's my only hope is that he took a step in the right direction, but he does have to build on that. He played well enough to win against Jacksonville because your defense held Jacksonville pretty much null and void of their offense. You might be able to get away with that again this week against the Giants, but that'll afford him more time to but by the time you get into a meatier schedule, this offense is going to have to be the reason why you win. And I don't think they're there yet, but let's give them time, man, because I'm not taking a victory lap after last Sunday. I'm not taking a victory lap over this next Sunday if he throws for 350. Like, I need to see this over a span before I actually know what I'm looking at with the consistency. So I'm happy with the step, but I need to see more.
Yep.
I think what I'm most happy about is just the situation that we saw overcome, because after you go and get embarrassed on national TV and you just open and the noise outside is as loud as it could be between the off the field stuff and the on the field stuff is just bad in both places. So the pressure's very high. People are very reactionary, including myself. And I just think there was an opportunity there to really crumble before the season even gets out of the gate. If you start 0-2, like we saw that graphic today, that and I know with 17 games, you have a little more leeway, but starting 0-2 is not a good way to make the playoffs. Let's just put it that way.
Except everybody thinks that it's still going to be easy for Baltimore and Cincinnati, but whatever.
Right. That's just good luck with that. We'll see where things end up. Let's see how that goes for them. I'd rather not be 0-2. So
yeah. That's the moral of this story. I like it. I like
Right.
it.
So just to see a little bit of calm, a little bit of a response, and to come back, and to after looking really hapless on offense, to come out and see a plan, to see just the ability to look at least decent. It was impressive to me, because to go from where they were to where they ended up on a week later, I thought was a really significant step in the right direction. And so I was glad to see that. I was glad to see, the Browns were really good at handling adversity last year, and you hope that stuff carries over year to year, but you never know if it's going to. Right, like each year, a team shows you who they are. They've got different pieces in there. Maybe the leadership is relatively the same, but you got to continue to prove that. And I think that was the biggest sign to me that hey, the leadership is still the same in this building, and the makeup of this team can very well be the same type of mentality and demeanor. And I loved that. And Jacob and Casey, you both mentioned there was a little bit of that ad-libbing that really was where Deshaun thrived in Houston, right? And he saw some of it. There's just little glimpses of it, and there were there's probably 5 or 6 plays that I could look at and say this could easily have ended in a sack or an incompletion, or the Browns really had no business picking up this first down. And because Deshaun just figured out a way to get ahead of the sticks, and that's something, in that Ravens comeback, he did that a couple of different times, and Casey, you said it right. He never got the opportunity to like build on those positive things, and so it's like you saw a glimmer of that again. So that was really exciting, and I'm tempered, but I'm also encouraged, and I really think. I know we're going to dive into all the parts of this, but Jerry Jeudy, man, is carrying the load of this passing game right now. You're missing David Njoku. Amari Cooper, for whatever reason, is not Amari Cooper right now. Jerry Jeudy has been that answer on offense, and that is a home run start to the season, if you ask me, because they're probably 0-2 without Jerry Jeudy, honestly. Oh,
yeah. I got a question before we move on from the quarterback, and this popped into my head. Okay, he had a horrendous performance against Dallas, right? But we didn't even get past that before these allegations come out immediately.
Right.
Had those allegations came out, how much more likely do you think the fan base as a whole would have been been more understanding of that Dallas game, because he lost family members and friends right before the game? But because those allegations come right on the back end, it was just like insult to injury. And it feels like this whole big thing, then it's not just the play, it's this other thing you're dealing with too. I just wonder how much more leeway, how much more empathy the fan base would have had as a whole if those allegations don't come out that following day, and you're just dealing with the bad performance, and then you factor in what he was mentally going through into that game.
That's a good question. I definitely do think that there could have been more empathy as a whole, but it just didn't allow for it. I that feels bad. It feels bad, but also the allegations feel really bad.
And he's burned up a lot of benefit of the doubt going into that game. It wasn't like these are the first allegations. Obviously, There's this mountain of other off-field shit that we've had to kind of deal with along the way. So I don't know, the fuse is shorter, I would say, just in general. And it was horrendous play. I'm not trying to excuse it, but just as a whole, if we get 5-6 games and that's just the outlier game and every other game's been a decent game and steadily improving, I think we'll look back on that and a different kind of lens than than we do right now, because we're only one game removed. But if we get to the bye and he plays every game up into the bye, and there's steady improvement, because there's escalation in the quality of opponents going into the bye as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look good against New York and Washington and even the Raiders to a degree, which I think the Raiders defense is better than people think it is, but I think that if you look good against those teams, you're still going to have that those aren't good teams vibe But if you do that against Philly and Cincy and Baltimore and the Chargers going into the bye, I think it'll put a different spin on it by the time we actually get to the bye if he's able to put together some decent games.
I very much agree. It's a complicated situation.
Very.
I think is the best way to sum it up. And we've got a guest here. Is somebody else enjoying a little victory in their life, huh?
Oh, quit thrashing, puppy.
Buster Brown, there he is.
Wow. Look at it. We love Buster. We're all dogs here. Love it.
He had enough of it.
I agree though. And you know what? You bring up a good point. The schedule escalates and it's a great way to ramp up into where you need to be, I think. Now, the Raiders, I do think the Raiders are going to be a tougher, like the Raiders just took it to Baltimore, and I do not think the Ravens were at all expecting that.
At home,
That's
pretty cool. It was pretty cool because like the Browns win and you're like, oh, this is great. And then it switches over to Baltimore losing.
Yep.
And you're just like, oh my God. Like, it's like this is what our rivals have experienced for years. They get done winning and then they get to see the Browns lose. They're like, yeah, get back in the basement, bitch. And like you had a chance and I know it's only 2 weeks into the year, but this is just kind of how quickly the NFL comes at you is, 3/4 of the division was 0-1. And you were pretty much at the bottom of those 0-1 situations. Although I would argue that Cincy's loss was worse because A, it was an AFC team, and B, it was the team that everybody ranked 32nd going into this year. That's a thing that really amazes me about how people are still so confident in what they're going to be able to do when one of those losses is ugly. Like, I know our loss is ugly, but Dallas is not a terrible football team. And in New England, I mean, it's weird. But the point is you go from just being just horrible in your first game to second place ahead of two teams. The two teams that are supposed to be the two teams that are battling it out for the division. Because that's everybody's picks. Everybody wants them to be there. And but to answer your question before I went down to see what the dog was doing, about Watson, if that allegation hadn't come out, and rather if everybody would have been so hard on him, so to speak, I think that it would have been the same. I think that all that was more fuel to the fire of the people that hate him, that want him to fail.
You didn't hear the second part though.
Okay.
So say that's the only bad game of like that. Say that they get through the bye and his game is steadily escalates. Do we look different upon that first game? It's just an outlier. He had people die, yada, yada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because also you play some teams, you should get some wins. And I think the outside will still view you beating the Giants or the Commanders as like not good teams and whatever. But when you if you beat the Eagles or the Chargers and Ravens, I think it looks different by the time you get to the bye. I think it's just going to take a while because that game was so horrendous and it still kind of just happened.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the offense and we'll shift gears to the part that we really want to talk about, which is the defense, because we all know. Now he's taken a plate. I have a paper plate in here. He has decided
you had a paper plate in there.
You had.
It's no longer yours.
It is now a Frisbee.
Love Buster.
He's like, it's a Frisbee. I'm going to play with this thing. So I will say that Kevin Stefanski on Monday talked about he thought Jack Conklin was close to playing on Sunday, and they could get one of, if not both, him and Jed Wills back in. Bubba, you okay? You're okay. And potentially get one, if not both of them back for this week. And oh my God, that'd be great because James Hudson and his 26.9 you can leave that open. 26.9 pass blocking grade on Sunday. Kid, get the hell off my field at left tackle. Can I? Okay. This is how we do this show. We bounce around and talk about a bunch of stupid shit.
Let's have at it.
I like this show.
It's my fave.
I will stand by the stance that I had on Sunday, which is I would have ran the ball on third down. Now, I understand that you gave the quarterback instructions that if it's not there, to go down, take the sack. Taking a sack's the same as not getting the first down on a run on third down with under 2 minutes and they have no timeouts. It's the same thing. And that incomplete pass gave him like 40 extra seconds, essentially, is what you gave. Which it doesn't come back to bite you. But if somebody better than James Hudson is playing left tackle, that's a 23-13 game.
Yeah.
Because watch that all 22. Cedric Tillman roasted that dude. He's got 5 yards of separation on that play. But you did know James Hudson was that left tackle. And he was not having a good day. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to run that kind of motion, do it to the other side. Do it behind DeJuan Jones. Flip the play. That's all I'm saying. Literally just flip it. Run the same play, not behind James Hudson.
I think
James Hudson, that was one of his worst blocks of the day because he totally blew it. Like he whiffed hard. But so for me, I'm 50-50 on the wanting to crucify Stefanski for the call because the call worked. But I just wanted to get my opinion on that play out. That let's calm down because it wasn't executed to perfection, but it did work.
it was there. It was there, and you could see that it was there. I really I was with Roger, Andy, Ed, and we all said the same thing. Like, just take the sack, let the clock keep rolling. It wouldn't be the Cleveland Browns if they didn't. That was very, very the Browns game against the Bears last year, where they just left, and then suddenly they're going down the field, and here they're going to get a shot in the end zone, and sure enough, a Jaguar gets their hands on it, and that was, whoo boy, that was, it would not be Browns football if it wasn't stressful.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, I thought Stefanski, especially, you know, that fourth down play that Jerome Ford busts for a big one, and just the overall play calling that he came out with, I thought it was really good to help build the confidence of a quarterback up. And I just wanted to mention this stat I posted out. That collectively, including the quarterback, they ran for 125 yards on Sunday, and they only crossed that mark one time in their final 8 games last year. They only crossed over 100 yards, I think, twice total. When I was looking up the stats, the run game was mostly non-existent last year down the stretch, and I know they were chunk plays, right? I get it. Deontay Foreman averaged 3 yards carry, although he could have had a lot more if there weren't some nullified plays.
Old
there.
Dude had at least 25, 30 yards in the game.
27 yards was what was
27.
Is what I heard documented. Yeah, and penalty yards called back.
Yeah, so this is as competent of a run game as I think we've seen in a good while from the Browns. So I was really encouraged. I was really encouraged by maybe Stefanski just kind of took the reins a little bit more. I'm not sure, but I thought overall I was happy with the game that he called.
All right, I'm going to backtrack and start with the play that Jacob brought up, and I have a lot of thoughts. We can, on one hand, say, look at the plays that Stefanski called for Watson in that Cowboys game, and he obviously doesn't believe in his quarterback. And then in the next game, puts the ball in his quarterback's hands to make the defining play of the game and say that it's not a good thing that he believes in him and that. It can be both. It has to be one or the other. Execution on Hudson's part and execution on Watson's part, because that's a low football IQ moment, is you just slide. Don't even take the sack. It's not there. Slide inbounds. Yep. Keep that clock rolling. We got a weapon as a punter. Like this is how we're doing it. But we also, this is where we can't confuse results and process. The process that Tillman's open, like that play worked. Now there's execution elements that lead to it not being a good play. So it's, I like the fact that he thought that his quarterback could pick it up. Now I need your quarterback to be smart and pick it up like that. Yes, but you need to be a dangerous offense. Your coach has to have that faith in the quarterback. So I think that's a step. Now the other step is execution. We'll see how that plays out. For the offense on a whole, and Nick was talking about it, like I think they found the formula. I think Foreman is the lead back and Ford is the change of pace. I think you get a Hammer and Foreman kind of going vertical, and then you can run those angular elements with Ford. He's got that kind of burst. Now Ford's got to trust his eyes and trust what he sees. Sometimes he gets caught up in that, and it's where he gets hesitant. Because on that fourth down play, he was quoted as saying he couldn't see the edge. He just had to trust that it was there. And when you saw it, and just off to the races. So, and honestly, he had a good day because he has that 36-yard scamper, and then people are like, well, if you take that away, he still averaged 4.67.
Yeah,
buddy, I'll take that every day of the week.
Yep,
that is great. We talked about it at nauseum last week. The missing element was they could not stay up with the sticks, and they were constantly in 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 8s, and it was just they couldn't do it. So to be in literally 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 consistently early in that game allowed the offense to get in rhythm and stay on the field and push the ball. And that made all the difference in the world, is keeping them out of obvious passing situations. So I think it was a good mix, but I'm also not trying to confuse process for results. It worked, but I thought it was good process. Process could have been good last week, but when you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot and it's 1st and 15, it's against a really good defense like Dallas, that was too much to overcome. So they did themselves all the favors by literally establishing a physical run game, kind of staying behind it, and then allowing things to build off of that. And that's what we saw this week, And it was only good in the first half. The second half, man, there was some problems up front, and it led to everything being slogged down, and they couldn't buy a first down there for a minute, So there's so much room to get better. But through the motion, the spacing, he seemed to have a greater command and understand where his answers were. Like, those are all things I can be positive on. And this offense, like, just give me 18 points, man. Give me 18 points. You're going to win some games with this defense. So my bar is low, but it's going to have to get higher as we get further into the season.
Saw a stat that Jerome Ford hit 21 and some change miles an hour, and that was the fastest of any ball carrier last weekend. Man, if you give him some daylight, he is gone. Like, I was surprised he didn't house that. It reminded me of the Indianapolis carry where he just saw daylight and turned it into a big one. I want to give them credit. Well, I also want to knock them. Number one, this show did not understand why the hell Deontay Foreman did not see the ball week 1. That made no sense to me. We were like, hey, this guy is the power back. He's going to establish some presence. The Browns like to be physical, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm glad at least it took them 1 week to figure out we need to get Deontay Foreman the ball. And you saw good things happen when you did. So that was really good to see.
He doesn't grab a hold of someone's face mask. They score and that game's over.
Damn it. I was so pissed.
So today I was doing studs and I was doing the stock report and I was just looking up stuff. So I was like, is there a video of that? Because I want to see what yard line he ended on. If you just search in Twitter, Deontay Foreman face mask, this is something he's done throughout his career. I was finding tweets from 2020, 2021, where he's constantly getting stiff arming people and getting his. So this might rear its head again. I didn't know it was an ongoing issue, but so that's how I found out. I was doing some research. And apparently,
you could tell he knew it too.
Real face masker.
Yeah, Buddy was like, he even went. I was like, oh.
At first, I thought it was on him. Like, oh, they face masked him. I was like, no.
Yeah,
he knows what he did.
Nah, he knew. He knew.
Two notes before we go off of the offense. Number one, I think we got to collectively talk about Jerry Jeudy because, man, that, like, I get it. Week 1 was bad, but he was the bright spot in that passing game. And, man, he stepped up. He stepped up on Sunday. He's the Browns' leading receiver. He's finding ways to get open. He held onto the ball through contact because Jerry Jeudy's not the biggest guy, right? They tried to light him up, and he held onto the ball. He's winning a couple of those 50-50 balls, which I know is a a knock on him, right? Like Jacob, you mentioned that pass could have been intercepted. I fully acknowledge that. But Judy got that ball, man. He got it, and he is with David Njoku out, right? With Amari Cooper not looking like himself, and really with Akins has provided a couple of nice catches, but Judy's been the passing offense through 2 weeks. I mean, really, he has. Like, I think this looks like one of those. It's early, but this looks like another one of those trades where you're saying, hey, man, like they got this guy on the cheap, and he's putting up some numbers so far. Very encouraging.
Casey, I heard this. I don't know if you heard about this. Jerome Ford said.
What Jerome Ford say, Jack?
Jerome Ford said that Jameis Winston calls plays like he's got a surprise to tell you.
Really? Man, I hadn't seen or heard that.
You hadn't seen or heard that?
Seen several memes. No.
Was it several memes in a group chat about that?
No.
Nothing like that. Which, by the way, the most fantastic thing I've ever heard is Jameis Winston being like, because he's calling like a quarterback sneak and a run, 2 quarterback sneaks and a run play is what he called. He's like, listen, because this is what I think it's like. This is, for me, this is my impression of Jameis Winston calling plays like, all right, guys, listen, we're gonna put this, we're gonna get in that tush push formation. We're gonna sneak the ball. like he's got to be like getting up in there and just be like, and then I'm not going to have the ball. I'm going to give it to Jerome Ford, and he's going to be running down the sidelines for a first down. like what is this? What does that mean that he's in there telling you a surprise?
My favorite tweet off of it was Mikey Tree saying, "My guy's eyes get big in the huddle."
Yeah.
Like he's, you know what I mean? There's not a more engaging person when he's talking to you than Jameis Winston. Like
he's giving you his undivided attention,
buddy, all that energy. All right, let me get a PSA because we're talking about wide receivers and Judy's looked fantastic. He's what we thought he was as far as like he's not a big guy, but his play strength once the ball's in his hands is pretty nice. Like he's not easy to bring down.
Toe drag.
Yeah, like he's got all the mechanics. You know what I mean? Yep. He's not strong off the line, but he's strong in the field. But his ability to really do damage after the catch, like you can see where this is going, and I want to see more. But I want to do a PSA here.
Yes.
And it's about Amari Cooper.
Uh-oh.
My guy's getting open still. My guy's creating separation. Like people want to say, well, maybe he's lost a step. That isn't it. That is not it. He's still getting separation. He's still routing cats up. They're falling down. My guy's okay, man. It's a 2-game stretch. If that man has not built up enough leeway for us to suffer through 2 subpar games, come on, man. He's going to be fine. Water finds its level. Amari Cooper didn't forget how to catch a football. If anything, because I saw people saying, well, he's pouting. He's, look, man. He's 30 years old in a contract year. He's not going to fuck up his money. If anything, he's putting too much pressure on himself, and that's what we're seeing here. He's going to be fine. He's still one of the best to do it, man. He's one of the best route runners in football. And if he wasn't getting open and he wasn't creating separation, maybe I'd buy this. Maybe Father Time caught up with him. Father Time's still picking young kids up off the ground when he's coming out of routes. They can't hang with him. So just hang in there, man. If we're still having this conversation going into week 5, I'll entertain it. But until then, Cooper's earned the leeway, in my opinion, to have a couple bad ones, man. He's still doing the thing. And
at least Judy's there to pick him up, man, because that was my biggest fear. When before they added Judy, it was like, well, if it's not Amari Cooper and it's not David Njoku, who is it? And I think Judy's showing that he's that answer. And I completely agree. Amari Cooper wants to keep playing in the NFL. He is not going to do anything to hurt his chance of getting paid again. Whoever it could be with the Browns, who knows, right? But he wants to get paid, right? He's not going to do dumb. Amari Cooper has never done dumb, pouty, whatever, right? Like, and we've seen him
the most professional player on the team, not named Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I'm not putting any stock into that whatsoever. Casey, I think you're spot on.
One more thing about the offense. I thought they run blocked pretty well. I thought the offensive line run blocked pretty well. That set up a lot of that stuff. But one thing is, I know Pat said a lot of awesome things about Jerry Jeudy on this show in the comments prior to this, so I'm sure he's very much enjoying that game that Jeudy had a couple of days ago. But I look at this offense making significant strides, and then remember they're going to get a lot better at left tackle and tight end and running back at some point this year. Hopefully all three of those things. Hopefully they don't get better at left tackle and then get hurt again or something like that. But at some point, David Njoku will be out there, Nick Chubb will be out there, and either Jack Conklin or Jed Wills will be out there, and both are clear upgrades over James Hudson at left tackle.
Right. So
at some point, that's going to happen. This unit I thought they meshed better this week. They still, I would argue that their two best players are not on the field offensively right now. In David Njoku, the Amari Cooper, David Njoku, which one's better? I think you can argue about that, but I don't think you can argue that Nick Chubb's their best offensive weapon if he's healthy and if he's himself. And I still fully believe until I have evidence that Nick Chubb isn't Nick Chubb, you can fuck off. Because until then.
Doubt Nick Chubb at your own peril. That's what I'll say. There's the pictures of him standing on the field this weekend. Did you see the look in his eyes? He's looking around. My man's coming back. My man is coming back. There
are three things in life, man: death, taxes, and Nick Chubb getting his. Those are the three certainties in life. It's going to be fine. So let's talk about the defense. I wanted to give some props. I know this was said. It might have been by you, Casey, on the OBR postgame show, talking about the fact that we didn't notice that Denzel Ward only played 11 snaps because that's how good everybody else played back there. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. I thought that was a typo. We saw the pre PFF's grades will be available, but they're not official until noon on Mondays for the 1:00 games. But we saw some of the early pre-review grades, and the thing that stuck out was 11 reps. I'm like, there's no way he only played 11 reps, because otherwise we would have noticed something. We didn't, because Greg Newsome, MJ Emerson, and Cam Mitchell played their ass. Now Newsome
got Mike Ford's 3 snaps.
He did have 3 snaps. You got me on that, and I didn't know he had 3 snaps because he
wasn't a liability on 3 plays.
That's exactly. Sometimes with some of your depth pieces and rotational pieces, that's what you need. You just need them to, if I need you to just eat 3 snaps because of injuries or fatigue or whatever it is, I need you to not be total garbage in those snaps, and he wasn't. So he graded out as a 60. In his snaps, he had a 60.0.
Yeah, and if he's playing 16 snaps, that's a problem.
Yes,
but when you're playing 3 snaps, I can rock with that.
The Browns had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players grade worse than Mike Ford that played significant snaps. I disagree with all 5 of their rankings, but
I want to say this on PFF's behalf. There's a lot of turnover in that company.
There is,
and they're going to get better too. They're going, you know what I mean? Yep. It's just like anything else. It's the beginning of the season. There are certain positions that are harder to grade than others. Defensive ends easier for me. Defensive backs, you don't know the coverage every time. You don't know the nuances. So you might think someone didn't do their assignment when they did their exact job as it was drawn up, but you're not privy to every little detail. Not every single cover 2 is the same. Not every single cover 6 is the same. You know what I mean? Some players are going to be have different techniques and things they're keying on that maybe you don't know they're keying on that. So it might appear to you that they didn't carry out their role, so defensive back's a little harder to judge.
Let's do this before I talk about Alex Wright. Cause I'm going to talk about Alex Wright.
Yeah.
We're going to talk
I just want to ask, you said Denzel Ward played 11 snaps. Do you know why?
Had a shoulder injury.
Yeah. Oh,
he went into the game with a shoulder injury and was going to be on a pitch count. We were not privy to that.
Yeah, nobody knew that because everybody I talked to was 11 snaps. what happened? He got hurt. And they're like, no. He was already hurt. They put him out there he was going out there for like third downs here and there. They put him out for literally a rep. And the funny thing is, you saw him like 2 or 3 times because he made plays. In the 11 snaps he was out there, he made like 3 or 4 really good plays that caught your attention. That's why I thought he was out there the whole damn time, because he showed up on my TV enough for me to think that he was, playing the whole game. But no, really, he was just really impactful in the 11 snaps he played.
He gonna get some picks. He's been close so many times already, man.
4 drop picks so far this year?
I have 3 for...
I think 3 for Denzel.
And 1 for Martin.
1 for Emerson, yeah.
Yeah. He dropped... Emerson, that was about to be a wild interception for Emerson. Like, he read and baited Trevor Lawrence and just... At the last second, he's like, oh, you really are going to throw it. And he just made a really athletic, awesome play.
And him and Brian Thomas were jawing the whole time, dude.
They let him get free one time, but overall,
that's right.
But it wasn't like let him. Like, BTJ got free. He was right there. And then in the nuance of his route, he said, peace out. And just shoved Newsom, big brothered him. He's going to be a problem. Mark it, dude. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be an issue in the league. So a lot of people are like down on Greg, like he just burnt Newsom. Like, nah, man, he just beat him. He was great at the physical at the top of the route. Like,
our friend Kyle Nash called that, and I just on the cornerbacks, I just want to say, that those drop picks, man, the defensive, the score does not indicate what the true potential of the defense has been or will be. Right, like this, you even pick 2 of those, right? They picked off Trevor Lawrence 3 times, but I'm just saying 2 of the 4 picks that they've dropped thus far. I get the Cowboys game was a blowout, but I'm just saying that those turnovers are going to come. They're around the ball. They're in position to make plays. Those turnovers are going to come.
Why do we never recover strip sacks? Everybody else always recovers them.
Oh my God, I know.
If our quarterback fumbles, it's a scoop and score.
We don't ever get that back.
Great point.
Every time it's a scoop and a score, and the Browns cannot get a damn fumble to bounce to. I'll never forget again Kyler Murray. I think I was 21. He fumbled it so bad. It went.
There were like 4
yards away.
He fumbled like 4 times in that game. Didn't he? Got him off.
Yeah. Well, but one of them literally bounced like a yard and a half away. No Browns could get it. And it was the most wild bounce ever, because then it started to bounce back towards him. And it was like, why are we never able to do this? I want to ask you guys just an area that really impressed you, a position group. And I'll start because then when it gets back to me, I want to talk about Alex Wright for a second. Going to.
Talking about him next.
He's motherfucker. And the linebackers, man, Jordan Hicks, JOK, they played really well. I would probably tend to agree, if there was a weak position on the defense, it's probably the linebackers. Just not because the linebackers are necessarily bad, but just because everywhere else is really good on this roster defensively. Man, I know we talked about it and some people kind of tried to poo-poo it. I love Anthony Walker. He does not hold a candle to Jordan Hicks to me in terms of speed and athleticism. Anthony Walker is not a bad football player. That is not what I'm talking. That they got an upgrade, and it is evident on film. And he was rangy. Let me look at his. I wanted to pull something up on him because I didn't think. Did he? Yeah,
I got his stats memorized. If you need them.
I was just verifying. I didn't think he had. I was making sure. I was pretty sure he hadn't missed any tackles, and he didn't. Mm-hmm. But 2 pressures, a sack, and a quarterback hit. So 2 times. Let's see. They had him rush the passer 10 times. Had 2 pressures, a sack, and a hit. So that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Every 5. You're getting a pressure every 5 pass rush snaps as a linebacker, an off-ball linebacker. You're not TJ Watt. You're not a stand-up edge rushing guy. And I thought what we kind of talked about him a little bit when they signed him was like, hey, this is a great compliment to JOK because he can clean up some of those plays that JOK misses. That's what he did. Like that's what I felt like he did. And he just really popped on film that his movement skills were different from what we were used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that those two, if they both remain healthy, I think they're gonna do a lot better things than some people gave him credit for.
Yeah, that's immediately where I was going to go. And if I were actually offer a critique, I would say right now the linebackers are ahead of the defensive tackles. I think with losing Mo, with Hall being out there, and Dalvin on a pitch count, you're not some of your whole parts. And we know they traded out Jordan Elliott for Quinn Jefferson, which in the pass rush is an upgrade, but in the run defense, it's not.
No.
And I would argue that the linebackers, because JOK, again, 100% snaps last week, 95% this week. Hicks played 88% of the snaps this week, with Bush getting 5%. But Hicks, and it's everywhere, man. It was 3 solo tackles. You talked about the pressure numbers, 2 passes defense. He's just an overall stud at linebacker. And when you have a playmaker like JOK, to have that solid piece next to him, it just completes that core. And they want to play 2 linebackers the majority of the time. Now, I think that changes when you get to week 6 and you're playing the Eagles and then the Ravens and the Chargers and teams that I think you're probably going to need 3 backers. Maybe by the time Bookie Watson is able to be that complimentary Sam. But when you're just running 2, to be able to put those 2 guys out there and leave them on the field, I mean, they're on, like I said, 85, 95% for 2 linebackers. It's impressive. I'm happy with what they've done there. And you said it, Jacob. If those 2 stay healthy, they're going to make plays, man. They're just going to, period. With this defensive line, their ability to fly around, and Hicks has range. He doesn't have JOK range, but I would argue that outside of Fred Warner, maybe nobody does have that type of range, So JOK is a very, very competent running partner for JOK. Also, let's shout out Ronnie Hickman.
Yeah.
At what point was he a liability?
No.
Dude held it down. I haven't looked at his grades for this week. I don't know if you can enlighten me, Jacob, but every time I noticed him, he was doing the right thing.
Ronnie Hickman had the 3rd best overall grade on the defense.
What a find that has been, man. What a find! Like,
played 42 snaps. They played 60 defensive snaps. He played 42. There's only, that puts him as 6th. There's only 5 people on the defense that played more snaps than Ronnie Hickman. That's Grant Delpit, JOK, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome, and Jordan Hicks.
That's such a home run undrafted free agent. Like, just absolutely, like he showed us. He filled in so nicely last year, and to build on that, right? When all of a sudden you need that depth again, you've got 10% of your roster on IR after 1 week, and here we are. It's like, it's really great to see Hickman playing well. And I just wanted to add about Hicks. Like, when we added him, we talked about him and said, okay, this guy's a reliable tackler. He's going to be a physical presence. And what I didn't see coming were those passes defended. I thought he was getting out there in space, and for being an older player, especially a linebacker, that they lose some of the twitchiness as they get older. I think he's still showing quite a bit, and you could see he's fired up. He's hyping up his teammates. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to like there, and I love that duo of linebackers. And I just want to say I put this out there on the Tweeterverse. I'm counting, and he keeps hitting them. Man, Dustin Hopkins is 10 for 10 from 50 plus in his Cleveland Browns career. That guy, he just picked right up where he left off. I have not felt so good about kicking since Phil Dawson, who's being honored, as you mentioned, Sunday. Like, what a move, what an acquisition that's been. He's just reliable, and to be able to do that, like, there's so many kickers that seem to be kicking from 50 plus right now. Not Justin Tucker, if you've noticed, but Dustin Hopkins, sir, just is automatic right now, and that is such a you talk about a game that was decided by 5 points, right? That's a very different game if Dustin Hopkins doesn't hit that field goal from 50 plus, and the Jaguars only need a field goal to potentially win, right? It's a very different game. So that's my impressive player, is just having that weapon at kicking, a kicker.
Honorable mention, Grant Delpit. He was everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
What else can you say? He was just everywhere. It was like, oh, there's Grant Delpit.
He'll
He was
lead all
either
safeties
making-
and tackles for loss.
What is it?
He will lead all safeties in the NFL and tackles for loss.
He had a couple, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think so.
He had 2. JOK had 2.
And he had 7. I think we had 5 or 6 as a team, right? TFLs this week. And I think that JOK and Delpit accounted for 4.
Hey,
14.
Jacob, I know that the narrative out there is that Andrew Berry can't draft. There's a player that Andrew Berry drafted that seems to be developing right before our own eyes.
I wonder if, it was interesting. I heard he couldn't draft 3rd-round picks.
Huh.
I wonder if you look in the background right now, if you'll see 2 of his 3rd-round picks hanging on the wall.
That's
in
a
the
great
same draft.
man. Look at you go.
And don't forget, David Bell played pretty well too. He was also a 3rd-round pick that same year as these 2. Dude, they lined Alex Wright up multiple times inside to rush, and he was a damn menace. I mean, a lot of people say this, so I'm really kind of saying the same thing that I've heard a ton of other people say, and that's everybody thought that he gets that sack there because of Miles. And don't get me wrong, Miles helped. Trevor had to step up in the pocket because Miles was coming screaming off the edge on that play. But Alex Wright destroyed Ezra Cleveland. I mean, like, just absolutely ate his lunch. A little swim over move just through there. And it's almost like when you draft a 6'5", 260 player who's gained 50 pounds in just a matter of a couple of years at a minor school in Alabama, a very small program in UAB. It's almost like when you get one of those guys, they're in their balls of clay. They need molded a little bit. And when you end up having to play them a ton of snaps because of injuries and they don't look good because they're just not there yet, it's almost like, oh, well, maybe after they get there, they'll develop and they'll grow. Holy shit. It's a wild, novel concept, isn't it? And now you've got a pass rusher who's your 4th pass rusher who is a legitimate threat to rush the passer both inside and outside and can set the edge against the run. And he's your 4th option. You're kicking him inside to give you Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Alex Wright, and Quentin Jefferson. They did that for quite a few times with Wright and Jefferson in the middle and Zadarius and Myles, or even give Myles a break and put Ogbo there. I'm still scared of those 4. Mm-hmm. I'm still scared of those 4. Ogbo made a pretty good impact. He only played 20 snaps. When you break that down, he only played 20 defensive snaps because that's how deep they are. Interestingly enough, Alex Wright actually outsnapped him by 13. He played 33 snaps. But maybe some players, they need a little bit of time, and maybe they all grow into role players if they have the talent to do such. And I won't accept any Alex Wright slander is all I'm saying. I don't accept Martin Emerson slander. I won't accept it on Alex Wright.
There are rookies on this team that are older than Alex Wright.
Yeah,
Alex Wright was a very young prospect. So just a word of the wise, give people time to develop before you write the book of who they are, what they're going to be. He's not even at his fully developed yet. Like, and
he's
you talk about him out.
Yeah. In year 3, he's 24. So he played his rookie season at 21. And from the time he got to UAB when he was 18, he gained 50 pounds between 18 and 21.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. You said it, though. It's his inside-outside versatility and their ability to put basically 4 A-plus pass rushers on the field at a time. You know what I mean? And when you get a team in obvious passing situations, and you have the type of personnel. And how fun is that for Schwartz and for Cesare to be able to play with the personnel groupings and mix and match? And you don't even have Michael Hall yet. You know, you already lost Melhurst, guys who can really get after quarterbacks. They just have a ton at their disposal when you can force teams in that situation. So that's where my mind goes when it's like when this offense starts clicking and you're able to put serious points on the board. If you're scoring 25, 26 points a game with this defense, and you can get a lead going into a fourth quarter and can literally let these guys pin their ears back and hunt. Quarterbacks are going to be under duress. There's no other way to say it. You just have that type of personnel, and I feel good for Alex Wright, man. That's a huge moment for him because he had a penalty earlier in the day where he's offsides. They pull him off. Miles does it. They're not pulling Miles off the field. Alex Wright's still young enough that when he does it, he's probably coming off the field. But to go out there and have that moment, man, to really seal the game. And we talked about D-Hop. We got to talk about Bojorquez, man. Like, my God. Like, Bojorquez is that in that moment, because you got to think of what that sequence is. That sequence is you get in the red zone with Deonta Foreman for a first down. No, you don't. It's a penalty. It's coming back. Okay, come back more. Then it's another penalty, holding, 2nd and 27, another penalty. You end up in 3rd and 36 from the 50-yard line.
Yep. You go from a field goal to nothing, to punting.
From a chip shot. I think that's a first down for Foreman. If they get that, then I think you score a touchdown on that drive. We have to run a draw just to get into – it's 58 yards. Now, could D-Hop kick a 58-yarder? Yes, he could. But you're only up 3 points right there. I don't want to go up 6. You're still, and then all that time on the clock. So to send Bojorquez as a weapon, when you have that kind of defense, to have a punter who can cough and corner, that is a weapon. And then you've seen it. That you couldn't have punted better. Boom. You could not have punted better, man. And to pin him back, and then Alex Wright to that very next play. To me, that's the most important sequence of the game.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Alex Wright, no pun intended, stepping up in that spot to really, like, because he gets that safety, which was their first safety since 2020, if I saw that stat correctly. He gets that safety, and all of a sudden you kind of exhale and you say, okay, this is going to be all right. Like, the momentum shift that happens from a young player to be able to do that and in that spot when it really felt like the game was hanging in the balance, right? Casey, I really appreciate you bringing up the situation, because if Foreman gets that first down, you're probably just icing the game. Then 2, even after that, you're like, okay, well, we can kick a field goal, so we'll at least be in a good spot. You don't want to be up 6, but at least you're up more than field goal at that point. And then 3, you go all the way back. You're leading the league in fucking penalties. That's gotta. They just so short sidebar. Rodney McLeod was on 92.3. He does an hour spot every Tuesday. I think I was talking about this. He said that they were talking to them about this, and they said that Kevin Stefanski sat the whole team down and they watched every penalty they've committed through the first 2 weeks in an effort to clean this stuff up. So I really hope that they do. But but to go back, I digress. You backed yourself up so far that you're not icing the game and you're not kicking a field goal, and to cough and cough. That was amazing. That was amazing. It was such tremendous special. They had 2 standout. The other special teams play was nullified, but the was it Winston Reed? No. Yes, it was Winston Reed who knocked that ball out, but that gets nullified. But you're just seeing, as Kevin Stefanski said, how about that team win? And as we get to the end here, and as we're looking at the summarize, I can say special teams, offense, defense, team win. Like, that is exactly the football you want to play, and why I feel like such a dolt for reacting so strongly to week 1.
It's a week-to-week league, Nick. I mean, it is. It's easy. It's easy to because they looked like dog shit week 1. It's so easy to be wrapped up in. I get it, man. I want to say this, though. He didn't say, how about that team win? He said, how about that fucking team win? Yes, and my plea for the Browns is, don't bleep this man. Let me hear him say that. I need to hear Stefanski cuss. I know he does it. They've caught him a few times, and they bleep it out. Just give me the raw footage once. That's all I ask. I won't even put it on our intro, I promise. I'll leave it bleeped out on the intro. But, man, hell yeah, coach.
I just want to say, he says, how about that fucking team win? And then he goes on the spiel, about this contribution, that contribution, the whole thing. And he ends that with a team on 3, 1, 2, 3 team. And I just I love that from Stefanski. There's just something about that just you saw it last year, and I just needed this win to remind me I think we all did, of like what they did last year and the way they came together as a team. And like you see glimpses of that and like reminders of like, hey, this is what they're building here. And, Jacob, you bring up Alex Wright and you guys brought up Ronnie Hickman and just all of these little pieces that are coming together to really make something. And I'm leaving this show a lot more excited than I started.
That's the spot.
That's the spot. I just want to say we're still pushing for 1,000 subscribers. I have been slacking on my advertising, but we've got 849 of you. And if you would click that subscribe button, we want to give away this Browns jersey. We want to hit 1,000 subscribers. We want to keep going, pursuing dreams over here. So we love you. If you've made it to this point, it means the world to us. So if you would click that subscribe button, I love that. Thank you to everybody for just being here and for being with us. This is it's 17 sprints. 17 sprints are guaranteed, as Stefanski said, and I can't wait to see the next one. So we will be back Friday. Maybe. We're not sure. Because we'll peek behind the curtain. We are supposed to go. Jacob and I are supposed to go to the game. We're not. We're figuring all that out. We're figuring all the nuts and bolts of that out. Sorry, this is long-winded. Anyway, thank you. We love you. This has been a bounce back, thank God, 1-1 Cleveland Browns review of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. That's Casey. Go Browns.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.